Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Narina McKeegan, Chair, Assistant Vice President of the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, and I'm honored to welcome you today to our Perkins training, an important opportunity to strengthen our shared understanding, support compliance, and advance the work of our region. LARC is pleased to offer this training series, which was on the screen while you were listening to the music, to support our colleges and our partners with real clear practical guidance across key areas of reporting. Today's session will focus specifically on Perkins, covering regulations and corresponding functionality within Perkins 1C. Please note that all of these sessions are recorded and made available on the LARC YouTube channel. Today, we are very fortunate to have Ryan Hatcher leading this series. Ryan is a former Chancellor's Office consultant and a recognized expert in community college workforce programs and the NOVA system. He has led major data reporting and grant management initiatives for the California Community College's Chancellor's Office and served as a key NOVA training resource from 2020 to 2024. We're grateful to have his expertise with us today. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I should take myself off mute. Thank you very much. I'm excited to talk to you all today. Perkins is a fun program in NOVA. It is very unique, and it's very interesting, actually, from like a grant management standpoint, how this one differs from some of the other ones. Before we get started, just if you have a question, I'll try to watch the chat and the hands being raised, so feel free to ask anything as we go. There's a lot to cover, and we've got a short time, so if I'm going too fast, please just raise your hand and let me know. But this is there's a lot of functions on this one. So let me go ahead and share. Let's do it this way, and hopefully this works. I'll just have this set up to go as a PDF or, there we go. Share. All right. Hopefully you all can see this.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Can you still see it now?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. If I had to, because I'm trying to monitor the chat too and everything. So if I flip back and forth, I want to make sure you all are still able to see this. Okay, so today we are talking about Perkins. This is specifically around NOVA. So let's get started here. We're going to go through a bunch of stuff. So first off, I always start by the rules. This is true for any of the kind of specific grant programs we're talking about here. Everything in NOVA, at least the vast majority of these, are all based off legislation. So for Perkins, that really means a few key pieces of federal legislation and some other regulations at the state level. We'll talk about the history of Perkins and NOVA. It is, like I mentioned, kind of a very unique program in the system, and there's some eccentricities that we should be aware of. We'll go through a walkthrough of the different major kind of Perkins 1C workflows, headcount application, the fiscal reporting process, talk about Q&A, or talk about additional resources, and then move on to Q&A. So like I said, the first thing we're going to start with are the rules. So this is what essentially makes Perkins tick. The original Perkins, or the actual original Perkins back in the day, the original CTE/vocational ed funding, I think dates back to pre-World War I. So this type of funding has been around for a long time. The U.S. has been funding these kinds of programs for well over 100 years. The modern version started really in 1963, and it was renamed Perkins, as you can see. In 1984, that was Perkins 1. We are now on Perkins 5, which was officially signed in 2018. So at some point there might be a Perkins 6. We are on 5 now. So, and it's a fairly, you guys are probably very familiar with the goals of this program. It's really just all about CTE programs and encouraging programs that get people jobs for technical knowledge and skills. It's never really changed in the 100+ years it's been around. If you're talking about Perkins' 5 sections of it, there's the one that really applies to us, obviously, because we titled it Perkins 1C. That's the one that really is managed by Nova. Perkins Title 1, Part C is what that comes from. And that's because Part C is where all the local provisions come around. There are some Part B funding that we'll touch on a little bit, and that's mostly at the kind of the chancellor's office level. But most of the 1C dollars we're talking about, that's all governed by this section here, local provisions. And like I mentioned, you definitely see a lot of this flow directly through to the application. When you have like this, the legislation spells out requirements in the application. It spells out the every other year CLNA requirement. It defines which funds or what you're allowed to do with the funds. There's just a lot on this thing that is directly related to the application that you see in Nova. So all comes from here. Then we're talking about funding. Again, you'll see this in Nova, same way. Perkins at the state level is split between CDE and Chancellor's Office. Some goes to K-12, some goes to community colleges. Of the 139 million to California, I think this is not this year, this is from last year before. It's roughly half and half between the two. This is the 2021-22 amount. It was 48, 42 or 48.52. It does shift a little bit. But this money, of course, goes to support several things, including, let me just my notes real quick, including, the bulk of it absolutely does go to the community colleges, right? That's what comes out in this application, but there's other things too. The chancellor's office actually funds some of their staff, like your regional monitors that are doing the oversight of Perkins. That is partially funded by Perkins funding. Chancellor's office funding is very complex with all the different sources they draw from. But also, there's state contracts, like for example, Perkins funding paid for the Perkins improvements in Nova. Like it's all comes out of that same big chunk of fundings. That's like your state contracts and leadership support and all those things. Everything it takes to require the program to run. There's also some of the money that goes into the RCs that factors into kind of how the chancellor's office funds the RCs. It's a combination of SWP, Perkins, and EDD, maybe more that I don't off the top of my head right now. But there's a lot of different funding sources in that one. So this money gets chopped up in a few ways, but the bulk of it does come through headcount to the colleges. I have a couple of memos here. We will be sending this presentation around if you want to see these. This is just if you look at the memos for Perkins, they do the same ones generally every cycle. The headcount's open, guidance on the CLNA. There'll be another one coming out later when the applications are closed. The only policy guidance memo that they've come out in the last couple of years involved changes of support costs for out-of-pocket expenses for special populations. I linked that here as well if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, there's a normal system of memos that come out with every single year that Perkins is active. It's a pretty routine process at this point. They've got it dialed in. All right, so let's talk about what Perkins and Nova looks like. Just check it real quick. Make sure there's no hands up. All right. Perkins and Nova. So Perkins or Nova has been around for about 10 years now. Nova has been around since 2016-17. It was originally built for SWP, which is relevant because SWP and Perkins are drastically different programs in a lot of ways. Terminology, function, funding, rules, all bunch of things. But Nova was originally made for SWP. And to this day, Perkins is the only federal program. Most of the programs are state. Most of the programs still operate similar to SWP, at least much more similar than they do to Perkins. So Perkins is still a bit of a special one in the system. But there are 50 other ones. So the system has a lot of complexity now. Perkins is not the only unique program. Adult Ed is arguably more unique. But K-12 also has its eccentricities. There's a lot of them in there. Perkins was built in 2020. One of the things that defines it is that unlike some programs in Nova, which are built using shared functionality, so they're similar, Perkins is entirely custom built, right? So it It is unique. Everything's hard coded. The actual application, all the workflows, all the fiscal reports, all the details that make this thing run are all set there by developers, which makes impact in a lot of reasons, primarily because anything can be changed, which is true. It's extremely flexible, even if the developers are the ones that have to do it. But it also is very, very customized to the legislation I was talking about and to how the chancellor's office wants to run this system. And we'll get into that. It's a very the application process is one of the more complicated ones we have. All right. But like I mentioned, some stuff in this, even though it's entirely custom, some stuff is still controlled by the chancellor's office. Like there's the allocation side of things, the head counts, starting everything. They can customize on the fiscal reporting side. They can't customize the fiscal reports, but they can customize the surveys that are following the fiscal reports, which we'll go to in a little bit. But there are some things that that the chancellor's office and the program managers can do, but largely it is custom built. And then, of course, this is true for all of Nova. There is no reporting mechanism inside of Nova. All Nova reporting is actually done through Looker, which is a kind of a third-party add-on that connects to all the Nova databases. And sorry, the lights just went off in the room I'm in. I probably got real dark all of a sudden. Connects to all the databases, and we collect all that information through Looker. One sec. I'll be right back. Turn my lights back on real quick. Looks like I'm dark today. All right. So Perkins Nova life cycle. This is the entire life cycle of your general annual cycle of a single. This is the life cycle of a single Perkins annual allocation. Usually in March, headcounts due in early March, which allows them to open applications in late March. Actually, this is a single application. Then you have, skip this one. This is from the prior year. Applications usually due in end of May. I think they're due this year on the May 29th. Then you have your 1, 2, 3 fiscal reports due the 15th of the month after they're due. So it's like 15 days after the deadline, the reports are due. Your last day to expend funds is going to be June 30th. It's a July 1st to June 30th, 1 year term. And then the final fiscal report is due 15 days after that. And then, of course, this is actually a relatively new feature. The last day to liquidate Perkins funds is actually on August 31st. They've done a lot of work in the past couple of years to clean up the end of Perkins programs. There's actually this auto archive feature, and they do an annual memo reminding people that the money will be reverted if it's not spent. So finish your reporting on time. Historically, that has been a challenge. All right. Let's talk about some of the other ones real quick. I'm mostly focusing on 1C today because 1C is the bulk of work in Perkins, but there are these other programs as well I just wanted to mention. Historically, 1B and reserve. Now, I think the only active one they're doing is the non-traditional careers and training. But these are all just programs funded by Perkins dollars. Part of that split I was talking about. The 1B actually refers to Perkins Title 1B, the state leadership dollars. These are all just programs funded by Perkins. They're in the Perkins application in Nova, they're in the Perkins program in Nova. I shouldn't use the word application. They're in the Perkins program in Nova, tied under the allocations under the same umbrella. But technically, they actually operate a lot more like the other newer programs in the system, and that the chancellor's office can build these out however they want. They use the same small fund builder functionality, which is I'm not going to go into at the moment, but essentially that's how most programs are created nowadays. It's like a standard template workflow that they can create an application, competitive or not, and run it that way. These are typically nested under 1C in Nova, which is mostly because they tie into the same allocation on the back end. So the chancellor's office can keep them all together financially, but they operate very differently. Your Title 1B, your reserve, and the non-traditional careers on this list operate a lot more like, I don't know, HRCC or any of the other new programs that may have come out in the last 3 or 4 years. So they do not operate like 1C at all, except they're just kind of mushed in there financially. All right, let's talk about project roles real quick. This is a big one in the system. There's two kinds of project roles, right? First things, or let's talk about them. This is all of them. So you've got your district contract project reporter, right? That's who's going to be primarily responsible for the application, right? That is a role that is set before the application's even opened. We'll get to that point. It's actually set during the headcount process. The district superintendent president is another role. They have a couple of approvals required in the application. Your institution project fiscal reporter is an optional role, but it's required for it's anyone that wants to do fiscal reporting work for any institution. That can be either a college or the CCD. And then your college responsible administrative dean of career education. That's going to be one for every college that's involved in the application. We'll get much more on these roles in a bit. Then your optional contacts are, your additional contact. You can add them, anyone from any institution, just add them as additional contact. It's a view only access. And then your institution project fiscal reporter. Oh, yeah, this should be not on the list above. I should fix that. That's very much an optional role. They're not required. It's if you just have someone that does fiscal reporting and not really part of anything else, you can give them that role, and they don't have access to the application. And here's the system roles. So the two kinds of roles, and we'll get more into how these are set later, but the project roles essentially are set on the application. They only apply to the application and the fiscal reports connected to it. System roles apply to everything. System roles should be set before the application is even open, which is important because this role here actually is responsible for headcount, which we'll go over in a minute. But that role needs to be correct before headcount is opened, or else there needs to be a help desk ticket to set it. Similarly, the regional fund monitor is set in advance. You guys know who your regional fund monitors are. I think it's Myra for LA. I could be wrong. And then other roles here. These are roles which, if you have them, are useful. These are system roles, right? It's a system role. So these aren't tied to the application, but both of these essentially give you control of the application. The institution project manager gives somebody de facto district contact project director powers. They're not officially listed as the district contact project director on the application, but they have the same abilities. It essentially gives them the primary lead for any, or project director for any application for a designated CCD. One of the things that's important about the system roles is that they are hierarchical. So if I give somebody access to LA Regional as the institution project manager, they will have the ability to essentially edit, submit, unsubmit, do all the same things that a project director can do for any application within the LA region. So any of the CCDs. If I give it just to LA CCD, they'll just have LA CCD, but it's a hierarchical thing with these. But if you are doing a lot of different colleges, if you're participating in a lot of different applications and want to be able to just go between them, this is a good role for you. If you're just doing one and you are a specific lead for one district, then this one works fine. So system roles versus project roles. Now let's talk through some of the actual screens we're going to see in the system. There's 4 major areas. Let's start with headcount. So Perkins headcount. This is a relatively short process, but it is historically something that is a giant pain at the chancellor's office because it is the major reason why why applications sometimes get delayed. This, and mostly because in order to actually calculate, and this is covered by the legislation, in order to calculate allocations, you have to have the headcount. And so the headcount all needs to be certified and done before the allocations can be finalized. And the allocations being finalized is actually what triggers the applications to be open. So headcount is a precursor, and every single district has to complete headcount before the state opens applications, which, like I mentioned, historically tricky. But if your headcount's correct, all you do is hit yes, and it's pretty much it. If your head counts are incorrect and you need to make a change, then you hit the no button, you make the change, you explain it, you certify down here, click this button that says I certify I've also made the change in MIS. And then in both cases, the last step, and I mentioned this before, is you set the project director. So as part of the headcount process, you'll be pre-populating the project director for the project, which means that when the application is eventually opened, we'll have the correct person who can control it, who can assign other roles and do all that stuff. This is another one that used to be a hurdle. They added this because historically, if there was turnover and the project director changed between years, they'd have to do a help desk ticket to get the role changed. This way, it's an additional step. It's an additional step in the headcount, but it avoids that scenario. When the headcount is done, when you've essentially done these two steps, it gets certified by the CEO slash business officer. They hit the certify button there. And then if you do need to make changes to it, if the headcount's wrong, if someone's like, oh, I made a mistake or whatever, you can hit the request button, request changes button, hit the decertify button that pops up in this little pop-up, and then it'll reopen it. It'll go back to looking like this, and then you can redo the certification process again. So you can undo it and redo it until such time that the allocations are finalized and the applications are open, because obviously this math goes into it. This is, you can't change this after the allocations are done. Screws up the whole formula. All right, that's head count. I'm going through pretty quickly, like I mentioned. So again, if you have questions or somebody flag me, yell at me, I can take a break. Okay. Here's the actual application. Like I mentioned, this is a big application for NOVA standards. And one of the things that makes it complicated is there's a lot of roles, right? You have several approver roles plus the actual project director plus representatives from each of the colleges involved that are all working in concert. The idea, the design behind it is that the district project director, district contact is the manager of this whole process, and they're kind of the owner of everything, and people are doing steps and then reporting back to them. Which is true because there's a lot of nested steps. We'll talk about some of those. And there's a lot of things that like you complete in step 2 that impact step 8, for example. So there's a lot of things that have implications later. And one of the things they've really done, I'll refer to this a bunch, the application map is incredibly useful to navigate around. Another thing that comes up a lot is single college districts versus multi-college districts. It's historically been always a big question mark how that's handled, and we'll go through how it generally works. But the bottom line is you just choose one. You choose one, and you choose one and stick to it, and not fund the other one. All right, so let's look at the application here. So to find your application, like I mentioned, they're automatically created. So they are, when the allocations are set, the applications are automatically generated. So your application will already be set in the system. It is now. It's currently, I think this might be Sandbox, but as of right now, applications are open for 2026-27. You can find yours by going to Perkins 1C, applications, finding your year and choosing your college, and it will already be set up for you. It'll have, because the headcount process includes designating the project director, it'll already have that populated, and you will be set. So just find yours and start working on it. When you open up your application, you'll see this page. I cut out the middle part here because it's literally just the details from the college or the CCD or from the district. There's nothing you actually need to do here. And so a couple things to point out on this page, though. You've got, number one, the workflow over here. If you click on your application and you don't see a workflow, then the workflow does not exist. Then you don't have the right roles. The workflow does exist. Sorry, the workflow does exist. You don't have the right roles to see it, which means you're probably not the project director or any sort of the other roles that you need. That's a help desk ticket, or talk to the actual project director to give you the right roles. But if you do see these over here, that's a good sign. Couple other things to point out. Copy prior year responses, really useful button. It populates a good chunk of the application, responses, goals and metrics, regulations, target performance from the prior year. It just gives you a nice little shortcut to get started. And then the other thing I like to point out is this view application history. It's a useful tool, not immediately. It's not going to show anything right now if you were to click on it before the application's even started, but it's really useful in the future because does a couple things. Number one, it tracks all approvals. So it'll say when and who approved at anything, including everything. And then it also caches anytime something is approved, certified at the final level, it takes a PDF. So if you want to like compare historical budgets or reports or whatever it is, the application history will allow you to do that. Just a nice way to quickly go back and see. Sometimes these things change a lot. All right, so that's the details and status page. Like I mentioned, nothing you need to do on this page. It's literally just a look at it, move on, unless you're using the copy priority responses. This is the application map. You should refer to this a lot. It's really useful. It's a complicated, long process. And as you can see, this page literally shows everything you've completed, everything that's incomplete on the side. It's easy to say, oh, okay, right now this is obviously just started, so everything says incomplete. But later it'll say draft or incomplete, and you'll be able to quickly say, like, why can't I submit? Because this is not done yet. It's a good reference. So use it. Contacts. This is where we set our actual application contacts, not the system contacts, but the application contacts. This one should come pre-populated. And then this one needs to be populated. So, you'll need to put in who your district superintendent/president is. And then one of these college responsible administrator/dean of career education for each individual college. So if there's 3 colleges, there should be 3 of these. If you put the same name for all of them, Nova's not going to stop you, but it's just not as good, or it depends on your situation entirely. One thing I always point out is that you'll notice that there's an actions bar over here. This does usually have a trash can in it, but right now this one only has 1 district contact, so there's no trash can. If you want to delete this person, you have to add a new person first, and then you can swap them out. And to add someone, you click this little add contact button in the bottom right-hand corner, and it pops up this page. I manually added this last line because it didn't fit on the screen, but these are your 5 options. These last 2 are optional. These first 3 are not. Covered that already. So you click on, you choose who you want. Some of them are tied to an institution. If we go back, if you look at the bottom 3 here, all of those are going to be tied to an institution. The top 2, the district superintendent, the president, the district contract, those are both not tied to institution. Those are both for the entire plan or for the entire application. So they will not have this bar over here. But for all of them, they will have a user because everyone in the system needs to have a Nova account, period, no matter what. If they don't have that, you can hit this invite them here button. All right, so going back to the application map, you can see the contacts is now complete in my example here. And we're moving on to the forms section. This is another section that's designed to be completed at the district level. Let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing on the forms is the CLNA, which is required this year. It's required every other year, but this year being an even numbered year, it's required. The functionality here is simple. This is a page. It's an upload box. You upload 2 documents. This is what the upload box looks like. You choose whether or not it's the CLNA or the core indicator report. You upload both of them. You make any comments you need to, and then you're done. Uploading them is the easy part. Actually, developing your CLNA tends to be harder. I'm not going to go into this in detail, but I did include this. I found this in an old Chancellor's Office PowerPoint. Just included it here for reference. But if you wanted to kind of get information on the CLNA, they do an annual guidance memo anytime the CLNA comes out as well. That was linked to earlier in the document also. So yeah, the CLNA, you just upload it. When it's done, upload it, move on. The next section under forms is literally just 8 narrative questions. Each one has 8,000 characters. You do not need to use all of those by any means. And I also will take this opportunity to point out up here in the right-hand corner, See, it says 8 errors. This is called the error stepper. It's a good, useful thing on pages with a lot of questions like this one. And as you can see, it says 8 errors because there's 8 questions and none of them have been filled out. As you were to fill them out with anything in those boxes, this number would go down and eventually go away. When it goes away, this will say complete. Just another way for Nova to kind of tell you what you have to do, because some of these pages get pretty long. But yeah, this one, response to local plan requirements, it's literally 8 questions, narrative, not too complicated. Just answer the questions. Next section, goals and metrics. This is where we put the goals. Just choose your goals and outcomes. I believe there's 3 goals total. I don't put them all on the page here, but literally just choose which ones. The important thing about this section is that these goals as chosen impact your abilities later to choose goals under activities when you're actually building out your kind of activities, work plan, and budget. So what you click here will impact your ability to click things later on the goal side. And this is, of course, the last page here is the budget summary. It's weird that it's in the form section, honestly. It's just where they put it. It's a roll-up of a later section, but this is what it looks like now. This is what it looks like when it's all complete. You can see it has the, this is how it summarizes the budget. Just an example of when it's done. And so, yeah, that's the form section entirely. So moving on, going back to the application map, and we're talking about the certification section. This section's a lot of approvals and a lot of roles. So this is where you really have to kind of coordinate multiple roles approving things in quick succession. For example, the allocation certification needs to be approved by the district chief CEO/CBO, which is a role that should already be set because this is the same group or same role that is doing the headcount. So this should be set by the system already, and they need to certify allocations. Then the district superintendent/president needs to certify the statement of assurances. This role is set on the contacts page. So if you need to change this one because it's wrong, you can change this on the contacts page. They certify the statement of assurances. Next step is the project director fills out this the regulations form, which is the place of performance. They can add additional places of performance if necessary. And then this is approved by the district superintendent/president. So another one that's approved by that role, same as this one. And then again, that role is set by the on the contacts page. Target performance is another one. If you are accepting the state targets, you just check the boxes. Easy peasy. I'll check all 3 boxes. If you're not accepting the state targets, then and don't choose one of them and don't click any of the boxes, you don't have to click a no, just leave it blank, and the system will prompt you to explain why. When you're done, if you either accepted them or explain why, you click this button at the bottom of that field, which is essentially like submitting it effectively, that button. That button notifies the approvers, which is actually the regional monitors in this case, and then for them to come in and approve it. If you uncheck it, it essentially is decertifying this form, and you have to confirm you want to decertify it, and then it opens back up for changes. But then if you do that and they've already approved it, then you will need them to approve it again. And by them, I mean the regional monitors, because this is the approval for this step. So I mean, in this section, and this is why this section is complicated. You've got, I think, 5 or 6 roles all involved with approvals and submitting things. You've got all 3 approval roles. You've got the district lead, potentially other folks in their office answering questions. So a lot of people involved, a lot of coordination required for this piece. Once we go on from the target performance, this is the actual performance. This one's just a box. If you've met 90% of your targets, you just check this box and move on. If you haven't met 90% of your targets, then the system is going to make you upload a program improvement plan. If any of these columns on the right say no, essentially, then this is going to pop up. You need to add a document. And then in either case, when you're done, you click this button down here, similar to above, and that finalizes this section. Yep, and that is it for the certification part. You can move on. So this is back to the application map. Now we're going to talk about kind of the meat of the application here, which is really the CCD/college sections. This is where we build our work plans and budgets primarily. And it's the same for both. It's pretty much the same interface, whether or not it's a CCD or college. And so I'm going to talk about them a little bit interchangeably and talk about, we'll go through the process for which if you're only doing one. For example, this district, right, single district, let's just pull the screenshot from Barstow. One college, so they could choose whether they want to fund the CCD or the college. A lot of the times that's a choice, and the other one just is kind of inactive for Perkins. For other schools, for multi-college districts, they would expect to have funding for everyone involved. So this is what it looks like when it's not filled out. This is what it looks like when it is all filled out, just for reference, just to show the comparison there. So this is what an individual one looks like when you first click on it. You'll notice there's a lot of stuff over here that hasn't been created yet. And there's a lot of stuff to do. When you're starting with a CCD or college, the first thing to start with is adding top codes. All Perkins programs are built on top codes. And so this is what it looks like when you've added the top codes, but let's talk about actually how to add those. You click the Add Top Code program. You choose the top code, you put the title in, it adds them. You would think that this button allows you to change the budget. It does not. It just allows you to edit the title or to delete top codes and add new ones. But essentially, you want to add your top codes. It looks like this once you populate it. Similarly, you can add your CTE programs or add admin programs. In both cases, these are just other ways to spend Perkins dollars with different rules attached. They're not necessarily applied to top codes. Across CTE can still be direct. Admin can't. And we'll go through the interfaces. So if you want to spend any money across CTE or an admin, you just add a program. It's interesting the terminology to use, but across CTE program is just how you're planning to spend that money. So if you're going to use this, click that. If you're not, then click this button right here. Similar workflow in both cases. You just add a program title and it adds a section to the menu on the left-hand side. No other details needed, but as you can see, I literally just added a couple of tests and it populates these menus. All right. So now we've added our programs, we've kind of structured our work plan and our budget this way, and now everything's going to be done by them. So when you click on the individual top codes, it takes you to this page. Oops, sorry, not this page yet. Oop, there we go. So we've added our programs, right? Before we move on to detailing out the programs and the budgets and the activities, there's the core indicator questions. Answer these. And then we get into the actual top code sections. So this is inside of the first top code. And first things first, it asks you some core indicator questions. If you choose yes, you answer the questions and move on. If you choose no, it asks you why, to explain why. Once you've done the core indicator questions, it's the program info. It's literally a narrative about what the program is doing, like what improvements are you doing, how issues will be addressed. It's the narrative, the why of the program. And then we've got our choose your activities. So these activity categories will show up on the next page when you're actually putting in activities. We'll talk about that in a second. But what you choose on this page will impact the next page as well. So program activities, right? This is where you actually make your activities. Like I mentioned, this comes directly from the checkbox in the prior page. I mentioned this earlier. These goals are set above forms, I think it was the section. But I mentioned this earlier, kind of your options in both of these are dictated by what's above. But this allows you to essentially just create activities. Create the activity, link it to some stuff above, describe it, and then that's it. Add as many activities as you want. Click new activity if you need to. Delete activities if you want to get rid of them. You can add them, populate all your activities under this particular top code. Then those activities then get budgeted. So, oops. Yep. There we go. Activities get budgeted. So all budget items are tied to activities, as you can see here. And then you essentially still do your object code. And then because this is federal and Perkins, we also have these expenditure categories, which I've expanded a little bit here for you. The 5 ones that we have in the system. Then we've got our direct expenditure, admin expenditure, which is a unique federal difference as opposed to direct indirect in more state terminology. And then description of the expenditure. So in this case, the expenditures will roll up to activities, which will roll up to goals even. So in this way, everything is linked together. But this is where we fund any activities we create underneath our top codes. Once you've created all of those, you go on to the next one. This is the across test interface. You'll notice that the core indicator section's gone. It's just the program info and the budget. Similar, you just do the narrative for the program info, choose your activities, create your activities under this one, and then similarly establish a budget for those activities. Same process, except these aren't tied to top codes. That's the big difference between the two. On the admin side, no narrative, no top code or no core indicators, just this is how much money you're spending on admin. I believe this is restricted, right? Can't remember if it's 4-5%, but this is what is required, or this is what is this is how we put our essentially admin, which is what the federal calls indirect in a lot of ways. And then when it's all done, this is what it looks like. You can see everything on the left is completed. We have the budget roll up. You can see each individual top code has its own direct. You can have admin dollars for direct expenditures if it is appropriate. And this is what it looks like when the whole budget section is all filled out. So now the question is, okay, this is what it looks like when you're actually budgeting an institution. In this case, we're spending all of our money through Pasadena CCD and not through the college, right? So this is the college in that case, right? This is your, if we are not budgeting anything through the college and we're doing everything through the CCD, then we would just click all 3 of these buttons on the left-hand side, essentially ignore all of the steps where we individually create activities and budgets for them. We still do the core indicators because that's required, but then we just submit this with all of this blank. As you can see, these 3 check marks are there, which is how you know it's done. That's just kind of how it's done. Either way, and this is a really important step here. When the college or CCD portions of the application are done, you must hit submit college forms. If you do not hit submit college forms, then they cannot submit the overall application. So this is really meant for the person at the college or the project director to complete their sections, submit them, and then for the whole application to be submitted in its entirety. If you try to submit without one of these being done, for example, in this example, you can see Pasadena City College is unsubmitted down here in the menu, which is why this is all grayed out up here. It won't let you. Everything has to be done. All the forms have to be certified by all the right people and everything before the thing is submitted or submittable. So just a thing to keep in mind, if you are looking and trying to figure out why you can't submit your application, check the application map. For example, this clearly says that this one is submitted and this one is draft. So you can clearly say, oh, this is my problem. That's what I need to fix. I'm going to go back and submit this one so I can take care of that. And then once you actually have this button in blue, you can hit submit application and submit your application. If you need to change it, unsubmit it, let's talk about that. Once it's approved, you can hit the unsubmit application button and unsubmit it. It's not too terribly complicated. The downside, of course, is that if you resubmit, it has to be reapproved again by the regional monitors. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you are making changes to the application, fiscal reports hide. They don't go away. They'll come back. They will come back in exactly the same format. They'll look the same, but they'll be hidden when the application is open because the budgets could change and they can be messed up. So they are hidden when applications are open, but they will come back as they were when the applications are finally reapproved, not when they're resubmitted, when they're recertified. All right, so let's talk about fiscal reporting. We've got about 14 minutes left. All right. So fiscal reporting basics, 4 reports and the final. So we've got one for every quarter. We talked about the timeline earlier. A few things to keep in mind about reporting is that all reports are cumulative, meaning you will be spending more every quarter than the quarter before. And if you don't, the system will stop you. It will not allow lesser amounts in later reports. It has to increase. Similarly, approvals must be completed in sequence and unsubmitted in sequence, meaning you have to do Q1 before you do Q2, before you do Q3. And if you need to make changes back to Q1 and you're in Q3, then you need to unsubmit and roll it all the way back to Q1 and then resubmit and reapprove everything from that point on. It is a pain, but it's how the system works. Project roles with access to fiscal reports, your district contract project director, the college responsible administrator slash dean of career education, I think is the role officially. It's college specific. They have access only to their college's section of the fiscal report. Same with institution project fiscal reporter. They're institution specific, whether it's CCD or college. The project director has access to everything. Approvals process, it's a 2-step process. We'll go into that in a minute. I have a screen for that. All right. So to find your fiscal report, first things first, find it. Once it's approved on your preview and submit page, there's a shortcut. So this is in the application. You can go up to the preview and submit, shortcut to fiscal reporting. It'll take you there. Or you can use the filters, right? You can. This is actually under fiscal reporting in the menu. Set your filters and find your fiscal report that way. Either way works fine. So this is what the fiscal report looks like. You can see it's all on one screen because it's all 1 year. This is a single year grant, so this is makes it a little bit easier. So this reporting year drop down does nothing. This reporting year drop down essentially does the same as clicking the tabs, so it doesn't really make a difference. But you can see there's 4 reports and the final report. Give me 1 second. I had to close the door. Okay. This is the expenditure report. This is a unique grid. This is only in Perkins. As you can see, you've got your, it's kind of A through E and 1 through 7,000 object codes. Fill these things in as appropriate. Like I mentioned, it is just the Perkins special that does it this way. But this is how we report expenditures on a quarterly basis. It will not stop you if you start putting more money than expected in certain categories. The regional monitors might want to talk to you, but the system will not stop you from overspending. When you're done with the fiscal reporting portion, you just hit the submit button. There is an option here. They don't currently have it active, but there is an option. They can add questions in between these. The Chancellor's Office has the ability to add questions. Right now, that's really only in the final report, but they can add it to individual quarterly fiscal reports. Like I mentioned, when you submit, hit that submit button. It's a 2-stage approval process. First, the district CEO, and then the regional monitor. And that's it. That's how to submit fiscal reports. It's relatively simple. And then, of course, after the 4, there's the final report. So when all 4 are complete, you can do your final report. Similar grid. The final report does overwrite Q4. It becomes the report of truth, report of record, including here, right? We are one of the things that is reportable at the federal level is expenditure by top code. So that is something that is, if you click these buttons in here, over here, it automatically just matches it to your budget, makes it easy. So if there is a change, make the change here. If there's no change, click the button. The final report, like I mentioned, does have a narrative reporting section. This is called the custom reporting. And it's just a series of questions that follow the financial portion. And it's all right now, it's all just stuff relating to your core indicators, your 1P1, 3P1, and the vision goals. And then there's, of course, this section down here where you can upload related documentation. You don't have to. This is an optional question if you want to upload something related to what you're saying about your achievements related to your goals and core indicators. So there is a narrative portion on the final. They can add it to the other ones if they want to. They haven't yet. And then once the final report is done, you submit it. Same process, two-stage process. Gets approved by the district CEO and then the regional fund monitor. And then if we need to make changes to the fiscal report, I mentioned this earlier, it has to be done in sequence. So first things first, it has to be decertified, and then it can be unsubmitted. And this has to be done if you're in Q4 and you want to make a change to Q1, you have to decertify and unsubmit Q4, decertify and unsubmit Q3, decertify and unsubmit all the way back, and then essentially open them all up and then in sequence submit and get them approved. It's something that you usually want to coordinate beforehand with all of the approvers so they can do it quickly. If you have everyone on the phone, it takes 2 minutes. Otherwise, it can take like, weeks to get people to do things in sequence. The last thing I was going to go over is archiving plans. This is relatively new. Historically, Perkins closing out rounds has been troubling. The system now has a feature where it archives plans. You can archive it yourself by clicking the archive button when you're done. And by done, I mean final report submitted. Any money that you haven't spent has been reverted back. There's a process for that. And this thing is officially done and over. The system will automatically do it after 6 months after the final report is complete, or you could do it yourself. And this is just a way to finally, put a stake in the whole year and be done with that year allocation. So additional resources. The Nova Help Desk is great. Either if you're in the system, either click on Help on the left-hand side or click on the little pop-up widget on the right-hand bottom corner to access the help desk. But it's a great resource for role changes or anything else you need. If there's something you don't see, then you should see, just contact the help desk. The Chancellor's Office has a good amount of FAQs and other support materials. Perkins, like I said, has been around in Nova for 10 years. So there's resources that they've developed over the years for that. LARC has also a good amount of Perkins resources. Check out the LARC website. And then I linked this manual, this technical assistance manual that came out last year, which is also a great resource. This is directly from the Chancellor's Office. So like I mentioned, this is a really well-established. I didn't even include the federal resources. I probably should have. There's a lot of federal resources about Perkins too. They're just not as specific to California or LA. But this is an older one. A lot of resources out there available for it. I have various textbooks on my desk at home that are like the Edgar. Perkins is a well-documented program. All right. 5 minutes left. We're almost at time, but if there are any questions, that's it. So anything I can answer, any questions that people might have. All right. Hearing none. Thank you all very, very much. I know that was a lot to get through. It's a long application. Yeah.
Ryan, I have a question. This is Starla Thomas from LBCC, and you probably mentioned it earlier, but where can we find this presentation?
That's a good question. I think LA is putting it on their YouTube channel, the actual recording. Yep. Thank you, Kevin.
Yes.
And I'll send them the presentation. I don't know how they plan to get it out to you guys, but I know we are distributing the actual PowerPoint I've been looking at as well.
Yeah, we usually post it on the LARC YouTube channel, and it's under the description section. The actual presentation is also linked there with the recording. So great question, Starla. And thank you, Kevin, for putting that in the chat. Any other questions? All right. So thank you, Ryan, so much for the informative session. Again, the recording and the PowerPoint presentation will all be on the YouTube channel, and you all have the link. I did put in our future training schedule in the chat, so please take a look at that. We have an advanced NOVA training coming up for your K-12 colleagues. We have one coming up as well. Please take a look and register. Thank you again for your partnership and the work you do every day to support our students and our workforce system. And thank you for being here. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.